Welcome back to the Synergistic CX Podcast. This is part 2 of our 3-part episode where we're focusing on customer experience in the fashion store industry with our special guest, Abdel Wahab Chaoui, Associate Director of C&O Marketing. In the previous segment, we looked at how fashion stores respond to online reviews and how the marketing mix is reflected in that feedback. Now we'll take a look at the customer journey to see how successful this industry is in meeting customer expectations. Before we begin exploring the customer journey itself, it's important to recognize that fashion retail has a fundamentally emotional component. Customers are not simply buying products. They are evaluating identity, confidence, comfort, and self-expression throughout the experience. Unlike more transactional industries, fashion shopping is influenced by inspiration, reassurance, and personal perception at every stage in the journey. That makes each interaction, whether it's digital or physical, part of how customers build confidence in their final purchase decision. The customer journey in fashion retail is not a simple one. It is a progression of emotional and practical decisions that evolve across multiple interactions and touchpoints. In this analysis, we examine a typical 5-stage customer journey consisting of awareness, consideration, conversion, retention, and advocacy. These 5 stages are composed of 11 distinct steps. You can see all of this on our slide from the top to the bottom for those of you watching the video, reflecting how customers move through the stages. The journey often begins with inspiration and need identification, followed by product exploration across digital and physical channels. From there, customers evaluate the environment, product availability, staff interaction, fitting experience, pricing, and payment, all while building confidence in their purchase decisions. The experience then continues beyond the transaction through post-purchase communication, repeat purchase intention, and ultimately word of mouth and loyalist referrals. At every stage, customers are not only evaluating products, they are evaluating trust, convenience, emotional reassurance, and how well the brand understands their expectations. As we mentioned, we map the customer journey across 5 key stages. Again, those are awareness, consideration, conversion, retention, and advocacy. At each stage, customers engage with both digital and physical touchpoints shaped by staff, the ambience of the store, products, and of course, operational execution. Seeing how these moments connect allows CX leaders to reduce friction, drive consistency, and turn individual visits into repeat behavior and long-term loyalty. Now that we've explored the customer journey, it's time for what we call the moment of truth, where we map our global sample of online reviews onto the customer journey map so that we can visually see where the fashion store industry is excelling in delivering customer expectations and where it's falling short. Before we step in, we'll do what we normally do and take a guess. Does anyone have any thoughts on where the dots will land here? No comments. Okay, well then we'll jump right in and see what we see.
We know that the pricing, the payment part is always a pain point, right? And here in fashion, I would also bet the parts of the fitting rooms. It's always a nightmare. That's why there are more and more returns nowadays than before, because it's very uncomfortable, it's hot, it's very small, and also I'm not sure why, but brands keep having within the same brand and within the same product size, product type, the size does not match, and it has a huge impact on operational costs in terms of returns. So I'm not sure why brands keep insisting on the same mistake, but that's just me leading customer experience consulting, telling the brands the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I think that if we suddenly saw pricing and payment jump up and be a great score here, that would be as unique as seeing the sun not rise one morning. A lot of industries, almost every industry I think we've seen so far has had issues in that particular piece.
It's always a point, yeah, because when people are ready to buy, don't make it difficult. I was shopping yesterday, and because of this new trend of self-checkout, I saw about 1/3 of customers in a clothing store just giving up of making the final step and just paying it because they have to do the self-checkout and it was not working properly. So it's not the point. People do not like new and innovative tools. They want things to work.
It is interesting. We've seen that as a common theme, even with our last podcast with Darren Dennington with Service with Style, where we looked at the bars industry. One of the key points there was when the customer is ready to leave and they get they want the check as soon as possible. That's one of the big blockers is they're ready to go and they're going to wait 10 or 15 minutes before they even get a check, or maybe they get the check and they put their card down, but it's 10 or 15 minutes before that gets run. And that's just way too long. So it's interesting that that's a common theme of dissatisfaction in every industry that we've looked at so far.
And in the fashion industry, it's something very important for leaders to consider is that most people, all of the time, they do not need to buy anything. And if they have to wait to pay for something, or if there is an issue during the payment, they have time to reconsider their choices. And if they leave the store feeling that actually I did not need to buy this, it's a bitter taste in the end of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to remember that the last souvenir of the customer in the store is the cashier. So I can be very inspired and very happy of the ambience of the store, how I was treated and welcomed by the salesperson. But at the end of the day, if I have any disappointment at the cashier, I will forget anything good, and I will only remember this last part of my purchase journey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The first thing that you hear and the last thing that you hear is
the first impressions. Exactly. We are going to a hotel next week, and I received the self-checkout yesterday, and there was a link. Okay, self-checkout, perfect. And then it said, if that link does not work, click on this, copy this one to the browser. Okay, if that one doesn't work, there is this possibility to download the form. If that doesn't work, there is a fourth option. And I was like, 4 options for self-checkout, for self-check-in? How on earth a customer experience manager thinks that giving the customer 4 trials to check in automatically, it's a good option? So it's the first impression and the last impression as we are talking here. Customer experience leaders, they need to be aware of this importance.
And the last thing, we need to remember one special thing, because now the physical stores are complaining because of the online process and all this stuff. If I come to you, I take the time to come to you, and I am upset by the process, I won't come anymore. I will choose to go online simply. So this is a battle between the brick and mortar shops and the online. If we don't simplify the things to the guy who take time to come to you, they won't come back anymore.
Yeah, and in the online, the brands need to be aware that it's very easy to compare prices. While in physical stores, you are much more prone to compare the experience itself. In online, you just go to the big brands and compare prices.
Yeah, in person, one of the main reasons you're going there is for that concierge type of service.
Yes, and you can see the products, you can get counsel, and especially if you are buying a gift, you can ask someone's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see the moment of truth.
Okay. Drum roll, please. And here's our moment of truth.
Yeah.
This chart illustrates customer sentiment during the various phases of the customer journey from left to right. The circles on the graph correspond to the frequency of specific elements mentioned by customers at each step, with the larger circles indicating steps with more frequently cited items. This helps us identify CX areas to prioritize for strategic focus. The shaded gray area in the graph denotes the variance. Statistically speaking, this is the standard deviation from the mean, highlighting the degree of variability at each step. A larger variance, a large gray area, indicates a wide range of customer opinions, signifying the need for additional objective measurement techniques such as mystery shopping or internal audits. Those wider areas could indicate significant operational inconsistencies, and additional CX measurement techniques can help identify what those are. Looking at the moment of truth for fashion retail, we see the strongest performance here during the initial and looks like the core stages of the experience. Generating the highest levels of positive sentiment are the steps of product discovery, store ambience, product availability and variety, and interaction with fashion consultants. These moments play a critical role in building customer confidence through having a relevant assortment of products and the right staff members providing inspiration and personalized support. At the same time, it looks like our moment of truth here also reveals some weak points in the customer journey, where sentiment begins to weaken around the fitting experience. Chris, I think you called that out. Pricing and payment, of course, and especially during post-purchase engagement, where many companies struggle to maintain continuity, reassurance, and an emotional connection after the transaction is completed. Abdel, again, based on your extensive experience in this industry, how do you think mystery shopping, for example, could help brands to improve the results that we see here?
Indeed, mystery shopping is a very effective instrument to capture the failures inside each of the steps of the transaction. MS helps to identify the gaps between expected standards and real execution on the ground. But MS alone is not always enough. As you mentioned earlier, fashion is first and foremost emotional. It's about feeling. So we very often need to add CX studies to uncover the gap between strong mystery shopping scores and weak commercial performance. And there is something even more subtle, because sometimes even when your mystery shopping standards are executed at 100%, they do not translate into a purchase. Why? Because the standards themselves need to be fine-tuned, recalibrated. They may be measuring the wrong things or missing what really drives the customer in the moment. This is what we call the dynamic square of service quality. Let me explain this to you. CX tell us about customer perception, real perception, expectation, and the moment of truth that drive the decision to buy and to come back. That allows us to update and recalibrate the mystery shopping grid itself. The double approach makes the mission much more effective and the metrics much more meaningful. The final goal of this dynamic square of service quality is when what you see in mystery shopping insights is what really matters in CX. We need to approach the two things. And this is the most complicated part of the story. If we get it right, we are on the good path. But if we keep on measuring things that doesn't count in the purchase decision, it doesn't mean anything for the commercial, the performance commercial of the store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing that's interesting related to that here that I see is with that variance in particular, you do have, look at the highest scoring dot on the chart is the product availability and variety. And the average is very high. It's solidly in the green, and it's a relatively large circle, which means people talk about it quite a bit. But there's a large variance there. I mean, one of the largest that we've ever seen in any industry, which means that there are a lot of people talking about it in not an excellent way. And so how do you get information out of that with the online reviews to get more specific drill down? And the answer is, well, you bolt on an objective mystery shopping program or an internal audit program to drill down in that particular piece of the customer journey and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and because you have such a high variability in those areas, one of the things that the mystery shopping program can assess, for example, is in case the product is not available. Nowadays, it's so common that brands can offer the online shopping in the store itself and to get delivered at the store for a pickup or delivered at the customer's house. So it's one of the things that is important to see if this selling proposition was done during the purchase, for example, is one of the things that's very common for mystery shopping programs to assess.
Mm-hmm.
And we can also use mystery shopping to have an idea on the merchandising, because sometimes the customers are suffering from saying that we don't find such products in the store, but the products exist, but the merchandising is not good enough. So we can use mystery shopping to get this information from the ground.
Mm-hmm. I actually had a personal anecdote here just recently. I was buying a dress shirt from a retailer here in Florida where I am, and went into the store and narrowed my choices down to a couple of specific styles that I liked, and they didn't have the size that I needed specifically. And the question was very simple: can we order this from the website? And they said absolutely yes. And then I sat there for 10 minutes while they poked around on their own website trying to figure out how to use it to see if they had my shirt. And I thought to myself, well, I could do this myself. Why did I come here? And I asked one of the gentlemen how long he'd been working there, and he said 6 months. And I think that might be a perfect little training opportunity, is go onto the website, learn how to do the filters and so forth, so that if customer needs help with it in the store, you can do it quickly. So that's excellent. Thank you, Abdel. Well, now let's look at some details for the particularly low scoring step of pricing and payment. So our findings here show that dissatisfaction in the pricing and payment stage is influenced less by price itself and more by how the purchase experience is actually executed. The strongest frustration points here are linked to order handling and purchase completion, where delays or inefficient processes weaken the customer confidence at the final stage of the journey. Staff interaction also appears to play an important role, and customers are reacting negatively to inattentive support, weak communication, or impersonal checkout experiences, particularly after investing time in product selection and fitting. Looking into post-purchase dissatisfaction, we see that it is driven mainly by breakdowns in continuity and responsiveness after the sale is completed. Customers frequently report inconsistent follow-up, lack of updates, and difficulty obtaining clear support related to orders, returns, or product concerns. Communication delays and slow resolution processes looks like they further increase frustration during the sensitive moment of the journey. These patterns reinforce how strongly post-purchase communication influences long-term perception in fashion retail. When post-sales support feels disconnected or inconsistent, customer confidence in the overall experience quickly begins to weaken. From our industry study, we have a few key takeaways. In fashion retail, the customer experience starts off strong, particularly during product discovery, store exploration, and interaction with fashion consultants. These moments play a critical role in building confidence, engagement, and purchase intention. However, clear friction emerges during fitting, pricing, and payment. Customers expect simplicity, efficiency, and reassurance during these decision moments, and operational complexity during these steps quickly affects perception. Finally, the sharpest decline appears during post-purchase communication. Slow follow-up, inconsistent updates, and disconnected support weaken continuity and reduce long-term confidence in the brand relationship. Now I'll hand things over once again to Emile, who will walk us through how the marketing mix funnel matrix helps us pinpoint where experiences break down and where focused action can make the biggest impact. Emile, take it away.
Thank you, Eric. So in this next part, we are going to focus our attention on a concept that we call the marketing mix funnel matrix. And why is this concept important and what it is? First, we know that the customer journey and the marketing mix interact with each other and they're tightly integrated. The customer journey is the proxy to the customer thoughts and feelings. This is the customer perception side of the equation, whereas the marketing mix is the set of business levers that organizations have to deliver better value. And in order to understand better and in more detail the customer perceptions in relationship to the elements and features of the marketing mix, we actually dive deeper into this matrix which intersects the journey and the mix. And what we're interested to uncover here is the concentration of the negative experiences. So here what you can see in this matrix is that each intersection cell has a percentage number, and this percentage is the share of all negative experiences, negative thoughts and feelings as extracted from the online reviews and ratings that we have collected. And this gives us the concentration of these negative experiences within the intersection of the mix and the journey. Why is this important? It is important because from a standpoint of how we operationalize, how the brands operationalize and prioritize their resources, this is the next logical step to dive into. So what we will be interested to uncover here is what is behind these red bars. And from a standpoint of the voice of the customer, the online reviews and ratings are minimal in terms of the control that we have of the volume of those. Why is that? Because we get what we get. We cannot ask the customers to put, well, obviously we can ask the customers to put more reviews on Google, but this is not going to be organic. So there is a natural cap with regards to the online reviews that customers give us. Now, obviously, we do want to enrich the voice of the customer picture, and the way to do it is through adding voice of the customer surveys in the mix. So the problem with the voice of the customer surveys is that we only have a very limited attention span with regards to what the customers can give us. So we want to ask the most influential questions that will uncover the most of the experience that stays still hidden from the online reviews and ratings. And it is only normal that we focus on these red areas to uncover more with regards to customer thoughts and feelings. And if we think about the voice of the customer survey, and if we think about the limitations that we have with the voice of the customer survey, the question here is realistically, how many questions can we ask the customers? And we tend to believe that we cannot ask more than 5 questions in a way that the attention span of the customers is still with us. So what we want to do is we want to take this marketing mix funnel matrix, take the data that we have collected from the online reviews, and design these 5 questions in a way that they dive deeper into data and into insights that we have already do not have from online reviews and ratings. And this is what we refer to the starter voice of the customer survey. What are the top 5 questions which are the most influential? So in this case, going back to the mix funnel matrix, what we can see is that there are 5 cells which concentrate the majority of the negative experience. So it is only normal that we further dive into those with regards to the next step of collecting customer feedback. We know that with regards to the other cells, the negative customer feedback is minimal or close to minimal. So we prioritize these intersections. And what we can see here is that consideration people takes a quarter of all negative aspects, all aspects with negative sentiment. I'm pointing the attention to this simply because this is the first time in an industry study where the most influential intersection between the mix, the marketing mix and the customer is not in the conversion process. So this is the first time where we actually see the consideration phase taking such an overwhelming majority of negative sentiment. Nonetheless, it's clearly that this is something that we need to dive deeper into, and we can dive deeper into those areas by targeting the questions of the voice of the customer survey from a standpoint of subjective measurements, and obviously following up with internal audits, with mystery shop, with targeted mystery shop exercises, focusing on these areas so that we understand what really the detail is. In this specific case, the top 5 questions that we want to put on the starter voice of the customer survey are related to the weakest performing steps. And these, so with regards to the top 5 weakest performing steps, which we'll take and incorporate into the starter voice of the customer surveys, these are: number 1, greetings from the frontline staff; number 2, staff support during the checkout process; number 3, overall experience in the store ambience; efficiency of the payment process; and product availability, information, and variety. So knowing that these are our top 5 weakest links, so to speak, and incorporating those into the starter voice of the customer survey for the fashion stores, the starter survey will look something like this. We are starting with a general satisfaction question: how satisfied are you with the brand? And then we are going to follow up with the top 5 key driver questions. In this case, I'm going to give example with the first one: frontline staff greeting. So the question here will be something like, how satisfied were you with the frontline staff greeting? And here, if we get any answer which is not 5 stars, very satisfied, we are going to follow up with additional aspects of the frontline greeting, such as no greeting upon entry, lack of eye contact, staff seemed disengaged, slow initial assistance, unfriendly first interaction, or other. So this will give us a very detailed next level understanding about the negative experiences, and building the starter voice of the customer survey around the already known weakest performing points. We take the most value of the customer experience. We get the most value of the customer attention by asking the most targeted questions in relationship to uncovering what is driving the negative customer experience. So with that, with the starter voice of the customer survey, we have a very powerful tool to follow up and gather more insights with regards to what is driving the negative experience. Eric, back to you.
Thank you, Emil. This is the end of part 2 of our 3-part episode here on the Synergistic CX Podcast, where we're focusing on the fashion store industry. In the next segment, we'll have a more in-depth discussion with our special guest, Abdel Wahab Chaoui, Associate Director at CNO Marketing. He will give us his thoughts about the customer experience in this industry and his additional insights into mystery shopping and market research. Remember that you can download the results and details of today's industry study for free on our website, cx-channel.com. And you can also follow the CX channel on LinkedIn, YouTube, or whatever social media you use to stay on top of our monthly podcasts. Be sure to press the subscribe button so you don't miss our next episode.